Parenting Junkie.
Hi guys, and welcome to the Parenting Junkie, the place to go to love parenting and for parenting from love. Today I want to talk to you guys about creativity and what we can do as parents to support and encourage more creativity in our children. It has been said by many thought leaders, and perhaps most famously by Ken Robinson, I know we all have an intense crush on him, that creativity is the literacy of today's day and age. And personally, I tend to really agree with that. Now, many of us have a fixed mindset, as Carol Dweck puts it in her book, Mindset, which you must now go and read, with regards to creativity. We think that you either have it or you don't. And many of us box creativity into one specific area of life, usually the arts. But in fact, creativity is something that we can grow in. So we need to adopt a growth mindset with regards to it, thinking that it is something that you can develop and learn all your life. Plus, we need to apply creativity as a skill to all areas of life, not just the arts. So don't think of creativity as something that you develop just in the field of art and music and theatre. Think of it as a creative outlook on life that permeates all areas of activity. Certainly STEM, such creativity can be developed through science, through technology, through engineering, through maths. It's important that we adopt that mindset in all the things that our children do. But even more interesting, creativity can be applied to relationships. I see creativity as one of the main things that I need to teach my children in their relationship with each other. Because what I mean here is that they need to be able to creatively problem solve. Ken Robinson defines creativity as the ability to come up with new ideas that have value. So how can we support this skill in our children? Well, we can turn our home into a playground of creativity, into a space that is all about brainstorming and coming up with new ideas. The first thing is to open up the dialogue of creativity with your children. And that means inviting them to brainstorm with you on coming up with ideas and solutions for day-to-day situations, such as what to make for dinner, how to set the table, how to build that tower for their baby sister, how to fix something, how to arrange a room, what type of card to make for a gift. The second thing we want to do is to encourage kids to make mistakes and allow them to fail. Creativity is nothing without trial and error. No great masters in any space reach really novel, new and valuable ideas without failing miserably hundreds of times along the way. You simply cannot make it to those goals and to those achievements without going through a lot of failure. And in fact, the failures are the key learning points. So if you want your child to develop a truly creative mind, you need to embrace failure and mistakes as something that we learn from. Every time your child makes a mistake of any kind, you can dissect it with them by looking at it as a learning opportunity rather than punishing them or telling them off, shaming them or guilting them. Instead, we look at it and say, that didn't work. I wonder why. And then we can think, I wonder what would work next time. So instead of getting personal and insulted and defeated by our mistakes and failures, we look at them as springboards for our next great idea. The third thing is you need to provide some resources for creativity. Now, granted, just going outside and playing with what nature provides, sticks and rocks and mud and water, can often be the most fulfilling and rich creative playground there is. But if you guys are inside, they need to have things that they can do inside to stretch those creative muscles. For me, the easiest place to go, and for many of us the default, is artistic creativity. So, if you want to provide your child with artistic creativity opportunities, you're going to need to have open-ended materials. Often, so often, we see that in preschools, in art classes, and at home, we are providing our children with predetermined projects. Something that needs to come out looking like this, right? In preschool, they want to make the cultural or holiday artifacts to bring home and for the parents to put on the refrigerator, such as the turkey hand or the Christmas ornament or the Mother's Day card, right? They're all predetermined. And the teacher is sitting there and directing the child, if they're not actually doing it for them, to this predetermined outcome. But when you want to encourage creativity, and this is the fourth thing, you need to have an open-ended exploration. And that means that you are not at all focused on the end goal and entirely focused on the process of discovering the materials, its qualities and characteristics, of stretching it and exploring it, of splashing it, of spilling it, of rubbing it on your fingers, on your hands, on your face, and if there's some kind of option for it, then on the walls as well. You need to have an open-ended space where no one's sitting there waiting for you to create this very specific thing. True creativity and true achievement in creativity always comes from open-ended exploration where we haven't got a predetermined answer in mind ahead of the game. So when you're playing Play-Doh with your child, clay, anything, building a tower, you need to let them be in the director's seat and in the driver's seat and taking it to wherever it leads them, wherever their process goes, not to where you want to see it go. And if you're part of a preschool or an art class, voice the opinion, discuss it with the teacher. Say, I don't want to see a perfectly drawn bunny from my 3-year-old. That isn't developmentally appropriate and it's not honest or true to his creative process. It doesn't serve him in any way. I don't need that for my fridge. Thank you very much. Please let my child explore. Let my child try out different things and get creative on their own. Another pitfall that we have as adults when we have a predetermined outcome is that we don't value what our children are capable of. Children usually can't produce the types of objects and pictures that we recognize easily. At young ages, we don't see their train or their son or their dinosaur as a train or son or dinosaur, and therefore we devalue it. We don't appreciate it, and this discourages the creative process in them. If instead we see that whatever they do and whatever they come up with and whatever they see is true to them and their process, and we value that, then they will stick to their work, they will improve, they will be focused, and they will love what they're doing. Really, and this is number 5, it is about instilling the passion of creativity rather than any outcome. So we need to remove any focus on achievement. And the way that we do this is that we pay no mind and no attention to the final outcome, except for just mirroring back and reflecting and encouraging the child in what they've produced. So if they come up with some kind of painting and they say, look, mommy, it's a dinosaur, and we don't see a dinosaur there at all, or we think it's an amazing dinosaur and our child is clearly gifted and the next Picasso, we put both of those reactions to one side and we simply mirror back a dinosaur, a green one. Is he scary or nice? And we engage with the child in what they have created, where it is right now, not where we would like for it to be. The next point is don't praise creativity. We've spoken about praise in many other videos, but I want to reiterate here. When you praise something, you remove its intrinsic value and the intrinsic motivation. So if you are praising your child for drawing, for being creative, for coming up with an idea, then you are removing their intrinsic motivation to do that. That is so counterproductive, because now what happens is the child wants to fulfill your praise. So if you've said to the child, wow, you are such a good artist, you made such a beautiful horse, the next time the child sits down to draw, they are not going to want to risk that label that you've given them of being a good artist. And they might fail, right? They might fail. So they're not going to try and draw a house or a flower. They'll just stick with what they know so that they're sure to get the same praise. The next thing we need to look at when we want to encourage creativity in our child is that we aren't shooting down any of their ideas. So when they're brainstorming and coming up with solutions to a problem or ideas of what to do or what to make, we need to accept that all ideas are valid. Now, if there's some crazy idea that isn't going to work, say they want to build a robot that really works and right now you just don't have parts to make that, Go down the path with them. Allow them, lead them a little bit, but allow them to reach those conclusions on their own. Because you might be very surprised by what they mean. If your child wants to build a robot that works, how about just saying, instead of saying, we don't have the materials for that, or I don't know how to do that, or we can't do that, you could say, okay, how do you suggest we go about that? And at each step of the way you say, okay, so what should we do now? Or, okay, what would you like to use? Or how should we build it? And allow them to reach their own conclusions of what will and will not work. Another absolutely key thing for developing the creative process in your child is to allow them a lot of time. Creative processes necessarily take time. They involve many failures and mistakes along the way, and they involve getting into a deep state of flow when no one's interrupting us. If your child only has 5 minutes to draw before they're running off to school in the morning, then they can't ever develop that flow and reach that space when they're really letting their creative juices flow. So, as hard as it might be, there need to be chunks of time where your child has creative materials available to them and where they can just play and explore in an open-ended environment. I hoped you liked this video. If you did, it would be great if you could share it with everyone you know. And of course, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Now, head on over to theparentingjunkie.com and leave me your advice about instilling creativity in our children. I can't wait to hear it. Keep on loving parenting and parenting from love, because your children need you almost as much as you need them. The Parenting Junkie. Should we be creative? Creative?